Welcome to the information session for the Department of Trade, Employment and Training's Workforce Connect Fund. In the spirit of reconciliation, the Department of Trade, Employment and Training recognises the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. The Workforce Connect Fund is an initiative designed to increase investment in industry and community-led projects that address attraction, retention and participation issues within the workforce. There have been two previous funding rounds of Workforce Connect Fund held in the 2022-23 and the 2023-24 financial years. 25 projects have been funded through the previous two funding rounds. These projects have supported more than 2,700 employers, 1,900 existing employees and 8,000 job seekers. In recent years, there have been impacts that have changed the way that employees wish to engage with work, the drivers for attraction and retention, and how meaningful work is defined. This fund is an opportunity for a broad range of stakeholders to work together to look at new and practical solutions to address issues facing individual industries and drive systemic change to strengthen Queensland's current and future workforce. The Workforce Connect Fund will fund large-scale projects delivered by industry bodies and community peak organisations that aim to address systemic attraction, retention and participation issues within specific industries. The fund aims to drive systemic industry-wide change in relation to these issues to enhance workforce outcomes for employers, employees and job seekers. Projects can be delivered over a 24-month period. The Workforce Connect Fund Guidelines for Funding has outlined some examples of eligible project activities. These activities may include new platforms or systems that enhance or address issues to workforce participation, new programs and approaches that support specific cohorts within the industry and address issues of stigmatism with workplaces, new pre-employment programs, industry inductions, simulated work environments or standardised industry-specific entry requirement materials for new target groups of job seekers, or new mentoring or coaching strategies that trial new approaches to retention of employees. Workforce planning at the sector level is critical and must be underpinned by industry leadership, as those responsible for job creation, employing people and shaping the future state of the workforce. Communities play a vital role by supporting employers to tap into workers they have not traditionally accessed and supporting Queenslanders to work in jobs they never thought available to them. For the purposes of the Workforce Connect Fund, industry peaks that represent entire sectors and community peaks that represent and advocate for particular disadvantaged groups at the state or national level are considered eligible to apply. Industry bodies and community peak organisations will connect and partner with other organisations, employers and key stakeholders to deliver new and flexible solutions to address workforce needs to ensure that employers are attracting employees that have the right skills and experience for industry-specific careers and are proactively implementing industry-wide strategies and mechanisms to support retention and enhance diversity and workplace appeal. Projects must have the capability to be rolled out sector-wide and affect systemic change within the industry. This slide models a partnership cycle. This may be difficult to see, but I will go through each of the boxes. The box at the top of the cycle says industries and communities working together to address systemic issues to better attract and retain employees. Box 2 says through partnership strategies, mechanisms, tools and/or services are identified for employers, employees and job seekers. Box 3 is for employers and employees and says services, tools, solutions are implemented and embedded across the industry in Queensland. Box 4 is for job seekers and says services and tools are available to ensure informed career decisions are being made and inclusive practices are embedded in work environments. Box 5 says through these established partnership arrangements under the project, job seekers are matched to employers, achieving long-term outcomes. To effect systemic change, consideration needs to be given to adjustments or transformations of embedded workforce policies and/or practices, including, but not limited to, the adjustment of mindsets or social norms. To be effective and long-lasting, this involves collaboration and partnerships with a diverse range of stakeholders at both the local and industry level. Working towards achieving systemic change could look like implementing transformational changes to workplaces to shift mindsets or stigmas within an industry, and/or implementing a shift such as skilling up or training non-traditional cohorts to work within a specific industry, and/or driving structural changes to recruitment and employee retention, including through changes to supporting infrastructure or systems to change the way an industry operates, and/or supporting more Queenslanders, particularly women, to access the workforce through fostering flexible work practices to widen the pool of available workers. It may be that one or all of the above is required to be considered when addressing and embedding large-scale systemic change within a particular industry. There is a two-step online process for new applications for the 2025-26 funding round. If you are an existing project under Workforce Connect Fund, you can work with the department to request a variation to your existing contract. Step 1 of the application process is an expression of interest form that must be lodged by 5 p.m. on the 22nd of October 2025. This expression of interest must include your project proposal, evidence to confirm your organisation's eligibility as a peak body organisation, and your response to the capacity to manage criterion. A Word document template of the expression of interest form is available under the How to Submit an EOI tab on the Workforce Connect Fund webpage. This template has been created to assist applicants to work on their submission offline before submitting their formal expression of interest online. It is important to note that you cannot save and return to your online submission, so we encourage all applicants to use the template provided to finalise your submission prior to sending it. This will also assist organisations who may require multiple people to provide input into the application and to gain any necessary approvals for content prior to submission. The expression of interest stage is your opportunity to include information about your organisation, the project you would like to put forward, the partners you will be seeking to work with to support this project, an indicative budget to outline costs associated with your project, and indicative target assist numbers for employers, employees and job seekers who will benefit from your proposed project. Please note that standard KPIs will be derived from these targets. All EOI submissions will be assessed against the capacity to manage criteria outlined in the guidelines for funding, as well as consider how each project proposal aligns for the purpose and intent of the Workforce Connect Fund. Departmental priorities and budget may be taken into consideration when assessing project proposals. If deemed eligible to progress, the department will invite eligible applicants to complete a full application assessment. Please note, an invitation to progress to full application stage is not an indication of funding approval. Full applications will be assessed against the remainder of the assessment criteria outlined in the guidelines for funding. This criteria includes addressing and responding to industry need, connections and partnerships, linkages, outcomes and evidence, and cost value for money. An assessment panel will be convened by DETET that may include representatives from both within and outside of the department. The role of the assessment panel will be to discuss, prioritise and recommend applications for funding to DETET. Following completion of the full application assessment, DETET will notify each applicant of its decision in relation to their application. At the completion of a project, a measurable increase in retention rates is expected to be reported across the funded organisation's member and non-member base, in addition to the key performance indicators being met. These indicators are A minimum of 10% of employers are supported and non-member employers, including small businesses, within the industry, noting that this must not be viewed as a membership or recruitment drive by funded organisations. For the target number of employers assisted, at least 95% of that target must be achieved. For the target number of employees being assisted, at least 95% of that target must be achieved. For the target number of job seekers assisted, at least 95% of that target must be achieved, and of those job seekers assisted, a minimum of 55% are successfully employed at the project's completion. These job seekers must be an Australian or New Zealand citizen or Australian permanent resident, including humanitarian entrants, or a temporary resident with the necessary visa and work permits on the pathway to permanent residency. Other project KPIs may be established based on approved project specifications. These targets should be meaningful, that is, stakeholders assisted should get real value from interacting with a project. Achievable, that is, the assessment process will consider if projects have set unrealistic targets. Inclusive, that is, projects should be able to demonstrate target numbers of job seekers, employees and employers assisted in both regional and southeast Queensland. And relevant to the level of funding requested, meaning there is an expectation that organisations that apply for the full $1 million in funding will have significantly higher targets than an organisation that applies for less funding. Project funds can only be expended on costs directly associated with the delivery of the project, including wages and on-costs for a project team and other delivery staff, costs associated with partnership arrangements, administrative costs, materials and equipment, specialist workshops and monitoring costs, costs associated with the facilitation of work experience or work placement, costs for the delivery of accredited or non-accredited training, overheads and operating costs. Funding cannot be used for any recurring cost for the organisation, for instance, ongoing staff costs, established positions within the organisation, normal operating costs, that is, utility, telecommunications charges, building lease costs, and core functions of the organisation. The purchase of assets, capital equipment or significant assets, buildings or vehicles, retrospective payments for expenses already incurred prior to grant funding approval or for work undertaken, costs for consultants, contractors or other suppliers of services that are associated entities with the applicant, costs associated with attendance at domestic and international trade shows, including interstate and international travel, and any other costs deemed ineligible by DETECT. Applications for the Workforce Connect Fund opened on the 8th of October 2025 and will close at 5 p.m. Wednesday the 22nd of October 2025. Successful EOIs will be invited to progress to full application in early November. Applications for Stage 2 will close at 5 p.m. on Monday the 19th of January 2026. Assessment of applications will be undertaken throughout the remainder of January and February. Project delivery may commence from May 2026. The following slides are some examples of projects that have been funded under previous funding rounds of Workforce Connect Fund. The Housing Industry Association's Advanced Apprenticeship and Employer Mentoring Program was funded through the first round of Workforce Connect Fund. The program provides a unique support system for apprentices, offering guidance, advice and a broader perspective on their careers and studies. Both apprentices and employers have up to 8 hours face-to-face video or telephone time per week with any mentor who supports them through any struggles or barriers being faced. The program is addressing the gap in supporting apprentices and contributing to a more skilled, resilient and sustainable workforce. The Ethnic Communities Council of Queensland are delivering a training program that aims to address the challenges facing the interpreter industry in attracting and retaining qualified professionals. ECCQ was successful in receiving funding to deliver a 2-year training program that will train individuals and service providers to integrate interpreters into the workforce. Partnering with 2M Language, ECCQ have designed a professional development program which also gives participants opportunities to connect with key organisations statewide to discover employment opportunities. The program is empowering the interpreter workforce and supporting the growing demand for interpreters in Queensland. Thank you for listening to this presentation today. Please visit the Workforce Connect Fund webpage to access the full guidelines for funding and terms and conditions and the sample application form. You can also call 137468 13QGov or email any inquiries regarding the Workforce Connect Fund to the dedicated email address wcf@desbit.qld.gov.au.